Welcome to the JDC West 2021 Operations Management Case Presentation, sponsored by Certified Management Consultants. Thank you to our judges today. Today we have Andrew Fletcher Cook from the Winnipeg Regional Health Authority, Jerome Nish from Builders Furniture Ltd, Jamie Hall from Safe Work Manitoba, Dan Blanchette from Selco Controls Limited, and finally Lisa Elliott from Ocean Tides Performance Group. Competitors, you will have a maximum of 20 minutes to present. Immediately following the presentation, judges will have a total of 5 minutes to ask the presenters questions. I am our academic moderator, who will be the timekeeper and controlling the overflow of the presentation format today. Time intervals will be noted in the Zoom chat by myself, beginning at the 10-minute mark. Following the presentation, I will facilitate the question and answer period. Judges will indicate their intent to ask a question by using the raised hand function. I will then call upon them and indicate the next question. Just a reminder that no questions or comments will be permitted from the audience at any time. The audience is also prohibited from communicating to the presenters in any form, including via Zoom or any other mediums during the presentation or questions. If you're an observer, please ensure your camera is off and your microphone is muted. Once the question period has completed, the Zoom meeting will end. Competitors, you are free to begin your presentation.
So before we begin, I would like to thank all the judges for joining us today on behalf of my team. And good morning, my name is Caitlin, and I'm today joined by my colleagues Stephanie and Vincent, and we are Glass Ceiling Consulting. And we're here to show you how to furnish a new system. And we will be referring your organization as Restore throughout our presentation. So without further ado, we have identified 3 key issues, and the first one being the decision regarding the new location and the 2-month gap. And we recommend that you pursue the industrial location and lease the storage in interim so you can keep all the inventories while you're having the transition. And it will cost you, in terms of lease, about $140,000 to $175,000, and you will be continue to receive donations during the peak times. And another key issues we have identified is product inconsistencies and frequent returns. And we recommend that you consolidate resources at the industrial location and transfer repaired goods to stores. And you take a photo of the catalog sales. And the impact you can expect from that is you can ensure to have the high quality repairs across the stores and hold your customers accountable for any damage that they may have caused when they're removing their products from your store. And another key issue we have identified is the volunteer retention with closing location. And we recommend that you partner up with trade schools around the area to bring in the skilled volunteers for repairs. And you can also expect the high quality items to reduce the returns, and new volunteers willing to commute to your new locations. And for the next few slides, I will be going over your stakeholders and 3CP analysis. So we have all these stakeholders, and I will be going through some of the major ones with you today. And first, of course, your participants who are working low-income families, and they are looking for affordable home ownership in the Greater Toronto area. And they also contribute back to your organization through volunteering. So they really do get to apply the meanings to their homes that they will be purchasing. And next we have the Habitat Restore store, which is your retail home improvement store. And you collect donations from the communities, and the sales from the proceeds are invested back to the Habitat home building program. And you do have 12 locations for the convenience of the doors, of course, and however the price and demand varies per location. And your retail home improvement stores wants to maximize the efficiency during the period of possible change in location. And next we have the organization. So we are talking about the high level overall organization, and you do have the lower labor costs since you do rely heavily on your volunteers, and you want to help the participants find not only an affordable but a meaningful home that they get to contribute during the process of building. And you also want to protect the community by offering homes at fair market value. And in terms of your volunteers, they do have high willingness to participate, and mostly they're skilled volunteers who wants to use and apply their existing construction skills and knowledge to help the community. And these are 3 other stakeholders that we have: your customers of the restore, the donors to the organization, and donors who donate the products that for you to sell at the retail locations. So before we jump into 3CP analysis, I will be going over some of the quantitative aspects of the organizations. So some of the things that we really want to highlight here is that you were able to overcome the lost revenue over expenditure from negative to positive within a year, which is very impressive. However, we did notice that the government grant have gone down from almost $270,000 to only $25,000. And another thing we wanted to note is that you do have a high number of volunteers, and whatever you do moving forward, you want to retain or increase the number of volunteers. So just to briefly go over, like I said, you do heavily rely on your volunteers, and we did witness the loss in government funds. And in terms of your customers who are purchasing the products in the restore, they do have a wide range income. However, the majority of the customers are from lower income households. And in terms of competition, as we saw in the previous slide, there was a decrease in fund. So meaning that there could be other nonprofit organizations within your area competing for the same brand. And in terms of the products, of course, you do provide the housing, affordable housing program. And in terms of your retail store, you sell the home improvement products. However, they vary in price and demand per location. So just to summarize the past few slides, you are currently at a position where you have inconsistent pricing on items and high volume of returned damaged items. And you do heavily rely on your volunteers, like I mentioned several times, and you did build over 400 houses for families in need. And where you want to be is you want to have that consistent pricing across all stores and items, and you want to have the less returns of items, and you want to have the reliable volunteers to help in all locations. And of course, since you do rely on them a lot, you do want to retain or increase the number of volunteers during the change of locations. And now I will pass you on to Stephanie to walk you through recommendations in terms of how you can get to this point.
Thank you, Caitlin. So what I'll be going through is a few of the key issues that we've addressed, as well as our decision analysis and how we address those issues, followed by the details of our recommendation. So the first issues that we've identified is location, location, location. What are you doing about the choice that you have going forward between that industrial area or that retail area, followed by the 2-month gap between the leases, and then volunteer retention and product control. So first, we're going to start by looking at the location. So choosing between the industrial location or the retail location, we see that the industrial location has larger storage space and a potential for a repair site in that area. You also have a loading dock for convenient pickup and drop-off locations. However, we do note that it is farther from other residential areas, which may imply less traffic in terms of having customers come in. Should you pursue the retail location, we see that it is closer to a residential area, so more of that high traffic that we mentioned, and you have the opportunity to customize the space to some limit. However, we note that there's no room for a receiving area in the back for receiving drop-offs or pickups. You have leasehold improvements that you'd have to make, so that's a bit of an investment. And of course, this choosing this location would limit your scope to the current retail operations that you're seeing, instead of giving you that potential to expand or do something else with that space. So we've suggested that you pursue the industrial location for its benefits, as well as the fact that we believe we can mitigate that con of distance. So what we believe that you should do with the industrial location is choose to hold larger items here. For example, large kitchen appliances or furniture pieces such as bed frames. We also suggest that you consolidate the majority of your repair resources, so that would be tool and labor at this location, in order to bring in items from other locations that require a significant level of repair that cannot be done at those individual retail stores. What this will do is require that shoppers who are purchasing large pieces of appliances already need to transport these in their cars. So they'd be driving to these locations anyway, so that limits the distance issues in terms of customers coming in. We also see that this will allow you to optimize your resources and ensure that there's quality repairs for your products across the board. So going forward, as we mentioned, we do want to have you bring in items from different stores in order to repair them at this repair hub. So what we see is that you need to be able to move those products. So we've identified that you can use either the current trucks. You've mentioned to us that you have 6 on hand already, or leasing or buying a new truck. If we choose to work with our current trucks, we see that you can have cost savings here, as you don't need to purchase or lease a new truck. And this will allow you to run a trial run and see what works and what doesn't. And if you need to, you can always lease or buy at a future time. However, we've noted that currently all your trucks are being used at capacity. If you choose to lease or buy a truck, this means less strain on your current resources, so bringing in more trucks. However, we note that it's fairly costly. So we see $80,000 investment up front, and then year over year, about $100,000 in terms of insurance and gas and so on. So for these reasons, we suggest that you continue with your current trucks, and we have a suggestion for mitigating that high capacity. So we noted again that currently all your trucks are operating at capacity because they're picking up donations for the various retail stores. So what we suggested is that you implement a designated hour for picking up donations, and then designated hours for moving product from the retail stores to the repair hub and back. So we'd like to see you ideally moving product in the mornings for about 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. would be our suggestion, and then in the afternoons and the evening, picking up donations from donors between 12 and 5 p.m. So that helps mitigate that high capacity there. So looking at the 2-month gap between leases, we see that in that interim period, you may be able to lease a storage space in order to keep your high inventory amount, or choose to run down inventory in your current location leading up to April so that you have fewer inventory to move. Now, if you choose to lease a storage space, this will allow you to continue accepting donations during that peak spring period, as you mentioned, when you're receiving about 35 to 40% of your total sales. And this would allow you to also hold overflow inventory from your other locations as well. We're looking at costs of about $140,000 to $175,000 for that 2.5-month period, and we'll break that down for you in the next slide. If you choose to run down your inventory leading up to the end of your lease, we'll see that you'll have lower costs in terms of moving inventory to your new location. However, you are losing out on those donations, which come out to about $25,000. So for this reason, we believe that you should lease a storage space during that interim in order to hold your high inventory. So here's just the cost breakdown there. So in terms of your North York location, we see that 35 to 40% of your spring donations makes up about $250,000 of your total revenue for that location. Whereas compared to the cost of leasing a storage, we see that the average cost is about $7 per square foot per month, and we recommend an area between 8,000 to 10,000 feet, which is roughly the size of your average grocery store, for 2.5 months, so giving you a half month of buffer time in case you have excess inventory to hold. So we can see that in terms of cost, it is much more cost efficient to lease that storage and not miss out on those donations. Lastly, we'd like to look at volunteer retention as well as product control. So in terms of volunteer retention, some of the issues you've brought up to us is the inconvenience of the new location, as well as the fact that you're afraid to lose experience and knowledge from these volunteers. Now, what we believe we can do to mitigate this is by partnering with that trade school that we mentioned earlier. You'll be able to bring in volunteers who are skilled in repairs. You can work out some sort of trade-off where maybe some of the repairs go towards an extra credit project in their trade school assignments, in order to really have a win-win for everyone there. Now, we'd see that these longer commutes would target those volunteers who specifically require the tools and the resources at this new location, so that makes it more worthwhile for them to have that longer commute. We also see that your volunteers at your current location The majority of them have been volunteering with you for upwards of 2 years, and they're quite dedicated and they have a passion to continue helping. So we believe that they may be able to be relocated to other retail focused locations, and keeping some of them on board to help out facilitating sales at your new industrial location. In terms of product control, we see that your prices vary drastically between the retail stores, and you have fairly frequent returns coming in from customers. Now, what we believe you should do to fix this is setting fixed price ranges on specific products so that prices do not fluctuate too largely between stores, and you can keep customers happy in that way. We also believe that by transporting the items that need more significant repair to that new industrial location where the resources and the skills are focused, you'll be able to bring higher quality products back to the retail stores to sort of limit that damage. We also suggest that you begin taking photos of the items before they're purchased so that you have proof of their high quality, as you've noted that you believe some of these issues may come from transportation. Here's just a summary slide of everything I've talked about. And now I'll let Vincent walk you through our implementation plan.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. So the first thing is we're going to walk through a couple steps of the implementation. Following that, we're going to look at some key performance indicators to make sure that you're staying on track. We're going to readdress the stakeholders. No plan is perfect, so we will address some of the risks that come up with our plan. And then following that, we have some future considerations that we'd like you to think about. So the first step of our implementation is find a location where you can lease the warehouse. As Stephanie outlined, you will be having a price savings overall. So this is something that you're going to want to do immediately to find the best deal for your buck. The next thing you're going to do is target local trade schools. As we mentioned, there is a small chance that when moving to this warehouse location, you will lose some of your volunteers. However, we believe this can help be mitigated by targeting the trade schools to ensure that you can have new people coming in. Perhaps they will be more skilled, and perhaps they can teach some of your current volunteers how to repair some of the furniture better. In addition to that, we're going to want you to talk to some of your volunteers and employees at the North York store. As you will be closing it down and moving, we would like to see you talk to them to see if you can get any of them to move to your new location, as well as have your employees move to that location as well. In addition to that, we would like to see you create a pricing catalog to ensure that pricing can become more consistent across stores. You did mention to us that doors at one store can be much more expensive than doors at another store, and that was frustrating your clients, which is understandable. So by creating a price catalog, you will set a designated range on what doors can be sold for so that every store can have that range so that no customer feels gypped. In addition to that, we'd like to see you make flyers talking about the change that you can post within your store or around the location, just to get people used to the idea that there will be a new store opening up. The key takeaways I'd like to leave you with is lease a warehouse location to settle the gap months, as well as create a catalog to have more consistent pricing across your stores. In the following months, we'd like to see you host a volunteer training session. As you mentioned to us, it was a concern that you raised that some of your volunteers were less experienced than your other ones. So we believe that this can be mitigated by having some of your older, more experienced volunteers train some of your newer ones, as we did note that that most of your volunteers are driven by the love of their community and willingness to help, so we don't believe that this will be that much of an issue. In addition to that, starting in February, we would like to see you start taking pictures of your items when you sell them. This will, once again, as Stephanie pointed out, really mitigate the fact that people will try to return items that they damaged when they were putting them in and installing, not when you didn't repair them properly. In addition to that, we would like to see you purchase some new tools and equipment for the industrial location. As you mentioned, some of your tools were not sufficient, or you just didn't have them in the first place to repair some of the items. So by really consolidating everything at this industrial location, you should be able to afford these tools to repair all new items. In addition to that, we would like to see you create the new truck schedule. As we mentioned, 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. would be for moving inventory, and 12 to 5 would be your original schedule pickups. And of course, this is all leading to the opening of the industrial stores starting in July. So once again, that's okay. So the implementation cost for this entire thing would be a one-time cost of $192,000, and that's the top end of the range. As Stephanie mentioned, there is potential for price saving in the renting of a warehouse location. However, we're unsure exactly what the square footage would look like. So moving on to the KPIs, to make sure you're staying on track, we would like to see you retain 90% of your volunteers during these gap months and have them move to your new location. We did note that you do have very high percentages of people who want to stay due to the fact that they love the community, or they want to help, or just the fact that they love working with their hands and like fixing these products that you get in. In addition to that, we would like to see your truck utilization rate stay very high. As you currently mentioned, they are constantly booked. So having this new schedule, we would like to see it remain at around a 95% utilization rate, as if it drops anything below that, then you're becoming more inefficient than you were previously, and that's something that we'd want to avoid at all costs. And the final KPI is have your industrial location open by July. So once again, to readdress your stakeholders, I'll be going over these kind of quickly, but your participants are always number one should be at the forefront of your thought. They want to find an organization that'll be able to provide them homes that they'll be able to live in, that they worked for, that they can live in for the rest of their lives. In addition to that, your volunteers, they want to be able to find ways that they can use their knowledge to help out their community. As we mentioned many times, they really do enjoy helping out their community. So this is something that they want to do and that they strive to do. Your customers found a place that they'll be able to purchase discounted items that in turn help the community, as well as have a high quality of goods. So once again, we identified some of these risks. I would love to go over them with you in our Q&A session, but we're running a little bit short on time in the presentation today. So the future considerations we brought up for you is create an online store, as you will already have pictures of your items, as well as purchase another truck if your current operations need it. So once again, just to summarize everything, the issues we brought up for you today is deciding what you should do in the 2-month gap, what you should do about inconsistencies in returns, and about volunteer retention. Once again, in order, the recommendations is you should pursue the industrial location and lease storage in the interim, as you will have a price savings of about $150,000, as it will only cost you $140,000 to $175,000 to lease the area. And we mentioned that 35 to 40% of your profits or that your donations come within these months, and that equates to around $250,000. In addition to that, we would like to see you consolidate your resources at the industrial location and transfer your repair goods to all your other stores, as well as create a catalog to ensure more pricing consistencies. This will ensure that your repairs are always high-end, always top-notch, and that all locations will be able to hold customers accountable. And finally, we would like to see you have a partnership with colleges around the area to ensure that you have high quality items reducing in returns, and new volunteers will be willing to come in and commute to your new location. Thank you very much. This now concludes our presentation.
Thank you, competitors. If you could stop sharing your slides at this point per the judge's request, we will start the question and answer period. Dan, you can go ahead.
Yes, thank you for your presentation. I just have a question for you. You had indicated in your slide that there is $100,000 yearly cost of the truck. I'm a little confused by that. Can you brief me on that, please?
I would absolutely love to brief you on that. So the reason we have the high cost of $100,000 is you would need to hire a new employee who would be able to drive this truck consistently. As you mentioned, your other trucks have a high utilization rate, which we estimate to be around $40,000. And we were unsure what the current distance your current trucks travel, but we estimate to be around 80,000 kilometers per year. So due to the price of gas being around $1.10 in the Toronto area, that comes out to another $40,000, and just in maintenance costs and all the other costs that add up, equate roughly to $20,000, given your $100,000 yearly costs.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, Jamie, you can go ahead.
Sure, and thank you, team. Evident that you put a lot of effort and preparation into this, and I thank you for doing that. I wanted to drill down a little bit onto that consolidation of repairs, and moving to this industrial site is going to be a change of business in some ways for us. I know that we do have volunteers that are skilled in doing repairs in our other locations, and you're talking about consolidating this and perhaps using students from trade schools. Can you say more? And you talked a little bit about it in your presentation, how you're going to manage that change, because we may have some volunteers that aren't willing to travel, but like to do repairs. And we may have novice repairers in the new location. How are you going to manage that change?
Yes, I can take that question. So what we hope to do is we've noted that in your current locations, you do have smaller repair areas as you have individuals who are suited to making smaller repairs within a reasonable limit. So we'd like to keep those going within your current stores. So any items that are, don't need a lot of care, they don't need significant repairs or changes, we'd like to keep those in-house, as it were, in those retail locations. However, it's those more larger items that require that higher level of skill and require a larger commitment of time or tools or resources, whatever it is. We'd like to see those products being moved to that industrial hub in order to make sure that all of their products are up to that quality that people expect.
Thank you.
Thank you. Lisa, you can go ahead.
Thank you. I'm interested in the new photo catalog and how we might get that up and running, and also how we might maintain it.
I can take that question. In longer term, it's a future consideration where you can post the pictures online and you create a website to manage, sorry, excuse me, all those visual aspects of the current state or like the state that you sold the product in. However, in the first time you're implementing this this stage, you can expect to have a very little cost that you can keep the track of the quality of the product. So this is something that you should look into in the longer term. However, we did want to introduce first today to see how it might work.
Thank you. Jerome, you're up.
Following up on Lisa's question, then, in terms of the costs associated with developing this catalog, where you've got $1,600, you're dealing with thousands of SKUs in each one of these stores, very different products. They're going to have to be linked to your POS system in some way in order to gain value from creating that price structure. How do you plan to address that?
For sure, I can definitely take that question. So as my colleague mentioned, in the interim, in the short term, the pricing catalog isn't meant to go out to all the customers. It's more meant to be kept in-house to ensure that your pricing stays consistent between your stores. And this would just be for more of your common goods. We do recognize that you do get a lot of different valued items. However, this would be for something like a door or a cabinet. You would set a certain price range on it to ensure that if a customer goes to one of your locations, they're not going to see a door for $300 and go to a different location and see that door for $100. So we do believe that the price of around $1,600 was just to get a camera. And in terms of the photos,
There's 30 seconds remaining.
The photos would be taken so that way you can see when product leaves your store that it is in good quality. And then if it gets returned with damages, you'll be able to pinpoint exactly where those damages occurred to see if it would be a worthy return or not.
Thank you. Unfortunately, we do not have time for any more questions today. Sorry, Andrew. Thank you, competitors, judges, and observers today. Competitors and observers, you can leave the Zoom room. Judges, I just have a quick message for you. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
We would just like to say thank you again to the judges for your time today.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Sorry, Andrew.
It's fine. I don't know how much we have to keep hammering home the truck question, which was where I was going. So
seems to be a big focus today. So I think I'm actually going to be with you this afternoon as well. We've decided to make a change. So we have a lunch break now, and we're back here at 1:15. So if you want to log on approximately 5-10 minutes beforehand, same process as before. Just wondering if you have any comments or feedbacks in the morning. I do have a quick call with Scott after this, so anything if you want to relay.
No, I think it's all good.
I think it's all good. I'm a little bit surprised everyone's gone with the industry option so far.
Yeah, I was surprised with that. I'm also surprised nobody asked about extending the lease. Like that would have been my first thing, is to go to my landlord and say, do you have plans? If not, can we head into a higher, a higher cost short-term 3 or 4 months.
I find it varies across teams. You might get some this afternoon that will go with that different options. So it'll be interesting to see how this afternoon plays out for sure. So go have a break, stretch your legs, grab something to eat, and I'll see you guys back here later.
Thank you.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Thank you.